Long before the first human rocket left Earth's orbit, whispers about humanity drifted across the stars. In faraway empires, deep in ancient archives written on crystal tablets, there were stories of a species known as the children of Earth. To most aliens of the current age, these were nothing but fables, like tales told to young ones before sleep. They believed that Earth's people had once burned bright in some distant era and then faded into dust, leaving only myths behind. For centuries, no proof of these humans existed, and so the stories sank deeper into legend. The Alindra Dominion, a powerful star-spanning empire, often dismissed these myths. Their scholars studied records of forgotten wars, and sometimes a strange name appeared: Earthborn, Sky Children, or Fire Builders. But since no living traveler had ever found this Earth, the scholars wrote them off as poetic imagination. That changed one ordinary cycle when an Alindra scouting vessel drifted beyond its usual patrol. The ship Velara was a sleek craft, its surface made of black alloy that shimmered like water. It sailed past a cluster of stars on the edge of the Orion Arm. The crew expected nothing unusual. For years, their mission was simple: scan empty systems, look for minerals, and return with dry reports that would sit in archives. But on this day, their sensors caught a strange pulse, weak, ancient, yet stubbornly clear. Lieutenant Soraya, a young officer with bright violet eyes, leaned over the console. "Captain, we're picking up something artificial. It's not Dominion code, it's older." Captain Veyron frowned. He was a veteran, his skin lined from years of cosmic service. "Older? From which empire?" Soraya shook her head. "Not any empire I know. The frequency is primitive, analog waves, but steady." They tuned in, and faint voices spilled through the speakers. The language was foreign but rhythmic. Music followed, then bursts of speech, laughter, and static. It was not one transmission, it was hundreds, layered across decades, traveling outward from a single blue planet. The crew went silent. "Origin?" the captain demanded. Soraya pointed at the screen. A star map zoomed in. A small sun glowed, with a third planet circling it like a gem. From there, a planet called Earth. The word hung in the air like a ghost stepping out of legend. Back on the Dominion capital, news of the signal spread quickly. Scholars crowded into great halls, listening to the faint echoes of Earth's broadcasts. Old texts were pulled from shelves, scrolls unrolled, and records compared. The word Earth appeared again and again. Some called it coincidence, others felt chills. "Impossible," said Chancellor Drellin, speaking before the High Council. "Earth's children are a bedtime story, a symbol of reckless fire. They cannot still exist." But the evidence was undeniable. Thousands of transmissions, carried voices, songs, and announcements of human life. Images were reconstructed, grainy pictures of cities, oceans, forests, and people walking on two legs. The Alindra gasped when they saw humans in motion, for they matched the ancient drawings. "Exactly, they live," whispered one scholar. "The children of Earth live." Yet the council did not respond with wonder. They responded with fear and ambition. "If the legends are true," Chancellor Drellin declared, "then humanity is dangerous. They once shook the stars. If left alone, they may rise again. We must not let an old fire burn new." And so the council approved a mission, not of greeting, not of alliance, but of dominance. They would send a fleet to Earth, to test its strength and, if possible, to bend it into submission. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity lived unaware of the storm forming beyond the sky. In a control room deep in Houston, a group of scientists monitored their satellite arrays. Most nights were quiet, filled with data charts and routine transmissions. But on a certain evening, Dr. Elena Marquez noticed something strange. "Jared, do you see this?" she asked, adjusting her headset. "We're picking up signals bouncing back at us, not from our satellites, from somewhere else." Her colleague frowned. "Maybe interference?" "No. Look." She showed him the repeating pattern, sharp, deliberate, like a response. Someone heard us. At first, the team thought it might be human technology. An echo from another satellite or a distant probe. But the more they studied it, the clearer it became. The signal was alien. Intelligent. Within hours, the discovery reached the United Nations. Panic mingled with excitement. Some leaders spoke of peace, of first contact, others feared invasion. For ordinary people, the news spread like wildfire on every channel. We are not alone. Children looked at the stars with wonder. Soldiers polished their weapons with unease. Farmers in quiet fields prayed while scientists celebrated. Humanity stood at the edge of something vast, unsure whether it was the dawn of friendship or the beginning of war. Far away, in the Alindra fleet, staging, ground's enormous ships awakened. Colossal engines roared to life, shaking the docks as soldiers boarded in disciplined lines. The flagship Tavra was a beast of steel, carrying enough firepower to erase continents. Admiral Kaylor, tall and severe, oversaw the preparation. To him, this mission was not just war, it was destiny. The myths speak of fire, he told his officers. We shall see if these humans still burn. If they do, we will quench them. If they do not, then the galaxy will finally be rid of an old ghost, the Alindra soldiers whispered among themselves. Some laughed at the thought of fragile humans resisting their might. Others remembered the stories their grandmothers told. Tales of warriors who would rather fall than kneel. Those whispers lingered like shadows in their hearts. Back on Earth, Elena watched the sky. She had always believed humanity's greatest battles were against themselves, against hunger, disease, and war. But now she felt a new truth pressing upon her. The universe had noticed them. In the weeks that followed, telescopes tracked movement in deep space. Strange ships, larger than anything humans had ever built, approached at terrifying speed, the Ya. First clear images showed black vessels gliding like predators in the void. The world reacted in chaos. Streets filled with protests and prayers. Governments rushed to build alliances. Old enemies shook hands, for fear had united them faster than diplomacy ever could. Elena found herself in meetings with generals, pilots, and politicians. They asked her one question again and again. What do they want? She had no answer. But deep inside, she feared the truth. The aliens did not come to greet them. They came to test the legend. And so, as the Alindra fleet drew closer, Earth stood on the edge of history. To the Alindra, this was merely another conquest, a chance to erase an old story. But to humanity, it was the first step into the vast stage of the cosmos. The myths were no longer forgotten. The children of Earth were real, and soon the galaxy would know whether those ancient whispers spoke of weakness or of fire reborn. The day the Alindra fleet entered the solar system, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Black vessels shaped like blades cut through the void, their hulls absorbing the light of the sun. To Earth's telescopes, they looked like shadows moving, with purpose. Governments had tried to calm their citizens with careful speeches, but when the first images leaked online, fear spread faster than any official statement. People saw not friendly explorers but war machines. Cities around the world prepared for disaster drills. Bunkers were stocked, and children asked questions their parents could not answer. In the Alindra flagship Tavra, Admiral Kaylor stood before a holographic display of Earth. His voice was cold but steady. This is the planet of the myths. Their people still live. But let us see if the stories of fire and courage were only dust. We give them one chance to kneel. If they resist, we remind them why legends fade. The arrival. The first alien ship to break the skies of Earth appeared over the Pacific Ocean. Fishermen at sea were the first to notice. The waves grew restless, as if a storm was forming, though the skies were clear. Then a vast shadow blocked the sun. News stations captured the moment when the alien craft hovered above the clouds, its underside glowing faintly with unknown energy. The world froze. Millions watched live as the Alindra announced themselves. A signal burst across every frequency, translated into clear human language through some advanced system. People of Earth, you are children of a forgotten story. We are the Alindra Dominion. You live because we permit it. You may surrender and your world will be spared. Resist and your fire will be extinguished. The words echoed in every home, every car radio, every phone. No one could escape them. The Council of Earth in a hidden chamber beneath Geneva. Leaders of Earth gathered. The United Nations had transformed overnight from a debating hall into a war council. Generals sat beside presidents, scientists beside diplomats. Some leaders urged surrender. We cannot fight this, one president argued. Their ships are larger than our cities. We must protect our people through submission. Others slammed their fists against the table. If we kneel, we become slaves. Humanity was not built to bow. Elena Marquez sat quietly at the edge of the chamber, invited as one of the first scientists to identify the signals. She was no soldier, but her voice carried weight. When asked her opinion, she said only, "They believe we are myths. Maybe that is our strength. Myths don't die easily." Her words spread through the room, lingering in the minds of generals who needed hope more than weapons. The test of strength to prove their dominance, the Alindra demanded a demonstration. They gave Earth 3 days to respond, surrender, or resist. If no answer came, they would attack a major city to show their power. In those 3 days, humanity prepared in silence. Old rivalries collapsed under the shadow of extinction. American engineers worked side by side with Russian strategists. European scientists shared data with Asian research teams. Even small nations offered what little they could, for survival. Left no room for pride. The plan was desperate but daring. A small fleet of Earth's most advanced fighter jets, armed with missiles and experimental railguns, would rise to meet a single Alindra cruiser. It was suicide, everyone knew. But it was also a chance to show the aliens that Earth's fire was not so easily snuffed out. The battle over the Pacific on, the third day, the Alindra ship descended again, this time hovering above the Pacific. Its captain broadcasted across the globe, "We wait for your choice. Kneel or be crushed." But instead of surrender, Earth answered with engines roaring. A formation of jets rose from carriers hidden beneath the waves, cutting across the clouds, like arrows. Their pilots carried no illusions. They were not fighting to win, but to show that humanity would not kneel. The Alindra officers aboard the cruiser laughed at first. These are their weapons? Primitive machines of metal and fire? One sneered, but the laughter died quickly. The jets did not scatter in fear. They danced with precision, weaving around beams of alien energy. Their missiles struck with surprising force, cracking against the shields. Railgun slugs, though primitive by Alindra standards, struck with raw kinetic fury that made the cruiser shudder. Inside command, alarms rang. "Shields weakening," an officer shouted. The Alindra captain scowled. "Impossible. They use scrap metal and sparks, yet they bite like wolves." The battle raged for hours, a storm of fire and smoke above the ocean. One by one, the jets fell. But each fall was not in vain. Every sacrifice pushed the cruiser closer to retreat. Finally, in a desperate move, a pilot rammed his damaged jet into the cruiser's exposed engine. The explosion tore through the sky, leaving the alien ship crippled. The Alindra vessel retreated, limping back toward the stars. Humanity had lost nearly every fighter, but the world below erupted in cheers. They had survived the first strike, the Ray. Reaction on the Alindra flagship, Admiral Kaylor's face darkened. Reports confirmed the humiliating truth. A Dominion cruiser had been forced to retreat by what should have been insects. "Admiral," said one of his officers, "perhaps the stories were not exaggerations." Kaylor silenced him with a glare. "They bled us once, but legends end. Prepare the fleet. We will remind these creatures why myths are forgotten." Back on Earth, though, the mood was very different. The footage of the battle spread like wildfire. People watched grainy videos of human jets weaving between alien blasts, and they felt something stronger than fear. pride. Children painted pictures of pilots with wings of fire. Soldiers stood taller in their uniforms. Farmers looked up at the sky and whispered, "We are not prey." For the first time, Earth began to believe it could fight. Elena's resolve in Houston. Elena Marquez watched the footage again and again. She saw the bravery of the pilots, the spark in their eyes before they launched into impossible odds. It filled her with both sorrow and determination. She gathered her team of scientists. We cannot match their numbers. We cannot match their ships. But we can outthink them. That is what makes us human. We turn weakness into strength, her. Word spread, carried to commanders and engineers across the world. Plans began to form. New traps, new weapons, new strategies. Humanity's greatest weapon would not be its machines, but its imagination. The whisper among the stars. Meanwhile, rumors spread within the Alindra fleet. Younger soldiers spoke quietly when their commanders could not hear. The humans, they fight differently. They adapt. They don't fear death. Others replied, "Perhaps the legends were true. Perhaps these are the same Earthborn who once made the stars tremble." The whispers grew stronger with each passing day. Soldiers who once believed the war would be swift now felt unease. Some even wondered if the Dominion was walking into a storm they did not understand. The hook for War Earth did not celebrate for long. While the first battle had given them hope, it had also guaranteed the wrath of the Alindra Dominion. Satellites detected new movement, an entire fleet descending dozens of warships where before there had been one. The leaders of Earth stared at the screens in silence. The first encounter had ended with survival, but the true war had only begun. And somewhere deep in her heart, Elena knew. The galaxy would soon learn that Earth's children were not just ancient lore. They were real, and their fire was only beginning to rise. The victory over the Alindra cruiser was brief, almost fragile, like a candle fighting against a storm. Humanity cheered, but the skies were not silent for long. Soon after the wrecked cruiser limped back into space, telescopes tracked something far more terrifying. An entire fleet moving toward Earth. Dozens of black warships approached, each larger than mountains. Their engines burned with quiet power, and their shadows stretched across the stars. Compared to this force, the first battle had been nothing more than a spark against the dark. Earth unites. Inside Geneva's underground war council, the mood was tense but determined. The footage of the fallen pilots played again and again. Their bravery had shaken fear out of every leader in the room. Humanity understood one truth: surrender was no longer an option. President Malik of Kenya spoke with calm strength. "The first battle proved we are not powerless. If we unite, we stand. If we divide, we fall. Our ancestors fought wars with sticks and fire, yet they survived. We will survive this too." Even leaders who once spoke of surrender now leaned forward with hardened resolve. Engineers from Japan shared drone blueprints with South American teams. Russian programmers traded defensive codes with Indian scientists. For the first time in history, the nations of Earth became one. Elena Marquez worked day and night, her eyes burning with exhaustion but her mind alive with ideas. She knew Earth could not match the Alindra's technology, but she also knew something about humanity that the aliens had forgotten. Humans adapt faster than anyone expects. Preparing the traps in hidden hangars across the globe, humanity began crafting weapons from what they had. Old satellites were repurposed into explosive mines. Cargo planes were modified into heavy bombers. Submarines were outfitted with experimental railguns. Even abandoned factories were lit once more, their machines forging metal for defense. Pilots trained without rest. Mechanics patched machines with whatever parts they could find. The world was no longer divided by borders, but bound by one shared truth: survival. Children drew pictures of alien ships exploding and taped them on the walls of bunkers. Families planted gardens in underground shelters. Fear remained, but it had transformed into fuel. Humanity would not wait for destruction. They would meet it in the sky. Alindra arrogance on, the Alindra flagship Tavra. Admiral Kaylor studied the approaching planet with disdain. "They scatter like insects," he told his officers. And insects burn. But not all of his soldiers agreed. Whispers moved through the lower decks. Young recruits asked, "How did the cruiser fall? Why did our weapons not crush them instantly?" Others remembered old stories passed down from their ancestors, warnings about the children of Earth who never yielded, who turned weakness into strength. Captain Soraya, the officer who first discovered Earth's signals, felt unease in her chest. She had read the ancient texts herself. "Do not provoke the fire-bearers," one verse had warned. Yet here they were, ready to provoke with all the might of the Dominion. The second clash, the Alindra fleet entered Earth's orbit like a black storm. From below, people watched the night sky sparkle with unfamiliar lights. Entire cities gathered outside, staring upward in silence. Then, without warning, the attack began. Columns of fire lanced down from orbit, targeting Earth's military bases and communication centers. Explosions tore through the ground, shaking the soil and cracking the skies. But Earth was not unprepared. From hidden bunkers, missiles streaked upward. From deep seas, submarines launched torpedoes into the void. Old satellites armed with explosives drifted into the paths of Alindra ships and detonated. The sky became a battlefield of fire and smoke. Human ingenuity, Admiral Kaylor frowned as alarms echoed across the Tavra. "How are they resisting?" "These are primitives," an officer shouted. "Admiral, they are using our own energy against us. Their satellites are reflecting our signals, disrupting targeting systems." Kaylor's hands tightened. He had underestimated them. Below, Elena watched, from a command center, listening to reports of Earth's traps working. Her heart pounded as she whispered, "This is what it means to be human. We learn faster than they expect." But victory was still far away. For every Alindra ship damaged, many more pressed forward. Cities burned, skies darkened. The world trembled under the weight of alien fire, the human spirit on the battlefield. Pilots flew with reckless courage. Commander Hayes led a squadron of jets straight into the enemy lines. His voice carried over the radio. "They think we're broken. Show them who we are." His squadron weaved between beams of alien energy, missiles flying in perfect arcs. Several Alindra ships took direct hits, their shields sparking. When Hayes's jet was struck, he did not eject. Instead, he guided his crippled craft straight into an enemy vessel, his sacrifice tearing through its hull. People on Earth watched live feeds of the battle. They saw humans fighting against impossible odds and refusing to bow. For every loss, determination grew stronger. Humanity was wounded but unbroken. Cracks in the Dominion back in the Alindra fleet, some officers began to question the mission. Captain Soraya spoke softly to her commander. "Admiral, they are not like other races we've crushed. They are stubborn. They are creative. Every trap, every strike, it feels as though they carry the fire of the stories." Kaylor glared. "Do not speak of legends. They are only flesh." But doubt spread. Soldiers whispered in the halls, "What if the children of Earth truly are the ones from the old warnings? What if the Dominion awakens something it cannot control?" A daring strike as battles raged in orbit. A group of human engineers proposed a desperate idea. They had detected a weakness in one Alindra command ship's energy core. If they could strike it directly, the fleet would be thrown into disarray. Elena helped plan the mission. She explained it simply to the generals. "We cannot outnumber them, but if we strike their heart, we can make them bleed." A squadron of modified bombers, painted with the flags of many nations, was chosen. Pilots volunteered without hesitation. They knew the chance of survival was almost zero, but not. One stepped back. The mission launched at dawn. Bombers rose through smoke-filled skies, carrying the hope of the planet with them. Fire in the sky. The Alindra saw the bombers coming and laughed at first, but as missiles struck true, laughter turned to alarm. Explosions rippled across the command, ship's surface. Shields failed. Fire tore across its hull. For the first time in centuries, An Alindra warship of command rank fell in battle. Its wreck burned through Earth's atmosphere, scattering across the ocean. The entire fleet hesitated. Soldiers gasped. Whispers spread. The legends were true. Earth's children burn bright again. On the ground, people erupted in cheers. For the first time, the Alindra were forced to pull back, retreating into higher orbit. Humanity had survived. Another day. The turning point of belief. Admiral Kahlor raged on his bridge. This is temporary. They are only delaying their destruction. Yet even his officers avoided his gaze. Doubt gnawed at their hearts. Meanwhile, Elena stood on Earth's battered soil, looking up at the smoking sky. She knew the war was far from over. But something had changed forever. The Alindra had seen humanity's fire, and the galaxy itself would soon remember the truth. The children of Earth were no longer myth. They were alive, and they were ready to fight. The wreck of the Alindra command ship still burned in Earth's oceans, its black remains scattered like fallen stars across the waves. For days, smoke rose into the skies as humans searched the wreckage. To the people of Earth, it was proof that the impossible had been achieved. The mighty Dominion could bleed. Yet victory came with heavy sorrow. Cities lay in ruins, and countless lives had been lost. Still, the memory of the bombers' courage filled the air with determination. For the first time, humanity was not only surviving, they were beginning to fight back. Whispers in the Dominion far above. In the Alindra fleet, silence lingered. Admiral Kahlor stood with his hands gripping the railing of his bridge, staring at the broken remains of the command vessel. His officers avoided his eyes. Soldiers whispered in corners. Captain Soraya, who had long felt unease about this war, broke the silence carefully. Admiral, perhaps the Council underestimated them. These humans, they do not fight as others do. Kahlor's jaw tightened. They are insects, nothing more. They bite only because we give them the chance. But deep in his mind, even Kahlor could not ignore the truth. The humans fought with a fire no other race had shown. The old legends were no longer harmless tales. They were becoming real again, and that truth made his empire tremble. The spirit of unity on Earth. Unity grew stronger than ever before. Nations that once argued now worked as one. Scientists from different continents gathered in shared labs, exchanging data without hesitation. Soldiers trained side by side, learning to combine their tactics. Even ordinary citizens joined in, building shelters, carrying supplies, and repairing damaged equipment. In every ruined city, banners of hope were raised. We are Earth. We fight. Together, Elena Marquez moved constantly between command centers, her mind always racing. She was no soldier, yet her strategies and ideas had saved lives again and again. She reminded leaders that strength was not in numbers but in creativity. We cannot fight them as they expect, she said. We must fight where they least expect. The first counterstrike, when the Alindra began their next offensive, launching waves of ships toward Earth, humanity did not simply defend. Instead, they launched a daring counterattack. Using captured fragments of Alindra technology, engineers had managed to craft a crude but powerful weapon, an energy disruptor capable of interfering with the Dominion's shields. It was unstable, dangerous, and untested, but it was all they had. Hidden within a disguised cargo ship, the device was flown into orbit by a small crew of volunteers. As Alindra ships advanced, the disruptor activated, sending waves of distortion through the void. For the first time, Alindra shields flickered and failed. Human fighter jets and missiles stormed through the gaps, striking ships that had once seemed invincible. The Dominion reeled in shock. Humanity had not only survived, they had turned the battle. Doubt among the Alindra. The fall of several Alindra ships spread fear through the fleet. Soldiers who had once laughed at the idea of human resistance now spoke in hushed tones. "Did you see how their weapons cut through our shields?" one whispered. "They are learning faster than we can adapt," said another. Captain Soraya stood before Admiral Kahlor once more. "Admiral, with respect, we must tell the Council the truth. This war will not be as simple as they believed. The humans are not insects, they are a storm. Kaelor slammed his fist against the console. Enough. I will not bow to myths. Prepare the fleet. We will crush their spirit before it grows. But even as he spoke, he knew the fire of Earth was spreading too fast. Humanity strikes beyond Earth. With each victory, humanity grew bolder. Commanders realized they could not win by defending alone. They needed to strike beyond their world. A plan was formed: launch a raid deep into Elindra-controlled space. The target was a supply outpost on a nearby moon, used to fuel the fleet. If destroyed, the Dominion's offensive would falter. The mission was dangerous. The outpost was heavily guarded, but volunteers came forward without hesitation. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers, all ready to risk their lives. As the fleet prepared to launch, Elena addressed the crews. You are not just fighting for Earth. You are fighting for the truth. That we are not myths, not insects, not forgotten children. Show them who we are. The crews saluted. Their ships lifted off into the night sky, engines burning like falling stars. The siege of the moon. Outpost, the raid began with silence. Human ships slipped through shadows, avoiding patrols. When they reached the outpost, they struck with speed and precision. Explosions lit the surface of the moon as missiles ripped through fuel depots. The Elindra garrison fought fiercely, but they were unprepared for humanity's unpredictable tactics. Instead of charging directly, the humans feigned retreats, lured ships into traps, and struck from angles the Dominion had never considered. Within hours, the outpost was in flames. Supply lines were cut. The Elindra fleet above Earth felt the loss immediately. Without fuel, their movement slowed. Humanity had achieved the impossible, striking the Dominion on their own ground. The rising fire. Across Earth, news of the raid spread like wildfire. People celebrated in streets despite the ruins around them. Songs were written about the brave crews who had flown into enemy territory. Children drew pictures not of fear, but of victory. For the Elindra, the raid was a humiliation. Their commanders debated fiercely. Some demanded overwhelming retaliation, while others urged caution. The whispers of old legends grew louder. Soldiers began to wonder if perhaps the Dominion had awakened something it could not put back to sleep. Viewer. Price of resistance, but victory did not come without cost. Many of the human volunteers never returned from the raid. Their names were read aloud in every city. Families wept, yet their grief carried pride. These sacrifices reminded humanity that freedom was never free. Elena felt the weight of every loss. She carried their names in her heart, promising that their courage would not be wasted. Standing in a darkened room, she whispered to herself, "We are becoming the story they feared. We are becoming the fire." The Dominion hesitates. In the Elindra capital, the High Council listened to reports with growing unease. Admiral Kaelor demanded reinforcements, but others questioned the wisdom of continuing the war. "These humans are different," one elder admitted. "They are not like the conquered races of the past. They remind me of the warnings our ancestors left behind." But Chancellor Drellin, proud and stubborn, refused to back down. "If we yield to legends, we lose our empire, crush them, erase their fire." The council remained divided, but the war continued. A new beginning on Earth as soldiers prepared for the next battles, a quiet understanding spread. Humanity had crossed a line. They were no longer fighting only to survive. They were fighting to prove to the galaxy that they were real, that they were strong, that they were more than ancient stories. Every victory lit the skies with fire. Every sacrifice echoed in the hearts of survivors. The children of Earth had been forgotten for ages, but now they burned brighter than ever. And deep in the stars, the Elindra Dominion began to realize the truth. They were not facing a fading myth. They were facing the rebirth of a legend. The fires of battle burned across the stars. The Elindra Dominion, once certain of its victory, now faced something it had not known in centuries: doubt. Their fleets were still larger, their technology still more advanced, Yet their commanders could no longer deny what every soldier whispered. The children of Earth were not weak. They were not myths. They were warriors reborn. The Council's last decision, in the great halls of the Dominion capital, the High Council gathered once more. Tension hung heavy in the air as Chancellor Drellin slammed his fist on the crystal table. Too much time has passed. Too many losses. This war should have been swift. Instead, we suffer humiliation. I will not let Earth shame the Dominion. We finish this. Now. Other voices rose in protest. The humans fight with a spirit unlike any other, one elder warned. If we press further, we may awaken something greater than war. But Drellin's pride was unshaken. With cold resolve, he commanded the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled. Hundreds of warships, each armed with devastating power, were ordered toward Earth. The final battle would decide everything. Earth's preparations. On Earth, the news of the approaching fleet spread quickly. Satellites detected the swarm of black vessels moving like a storm across the void. Fear rippled through every city, but alongside it came determination. The world had no illusions. This would be the greatest test in history. Every factory worked night and day. Engineers rebuilt machines with whatever scraps they could find. Farmers offered their fields as launch zones. Children collected metal and batteries to be repurposed for weapons. The human race prepared not as nations, but as one people. The words, "We are Earth," appeared on walls, flags, and screens across the globe. Elena Marquez, standing before the world leaders, spoke with a calm voice, though her heart raced. This is not only a battle for survival. It is a battle for memory. They want to erase us from history, but we will remind them that legends are not erased. They are reborn. The enemy descends. The Alindra fleet arrived like a black tide, blotting out the stars. From every continent, people looked upward and saw the heavens filled with shadows. The night turned darker than any storm. Admiral Kalor stood at the front of the Tevra, his face hard as stone. "This ends today," he said. Yet even he felt the weight of uncertainty. Too many battles had shown him that humans did not break, as expected. Captain Soraya, standing beside him, whispered, "Perhaps today, Admiral, we discover if the legends were warnings or promises." The final battle begins. The first strike came from orbit. Columns of fire rained down, tearing through mountains and seas. But Earth was ready. Missiles burst upward in swarms. Submarines hidden in the oceans launched torpedoes into the skies. Railguns fired from hidden bunkers, their slugs punching through shields weakened by experimental disruptors. Above, human fighter jets and drones rose like a storm of steel. They darted through alien fire, striking at weak points and retreating before the enemy could respond. Every move was planned, every risk calculated. Humanity was no longer fighting blindly. They were fighting with purpose. The skies lit up with explosions. Fire burned across the void, and the sound of war echoed louder than thunder. Sacrifices of heroes as the battle raged. Humanity's courage shone brightest in sacrifice. Commander Liu, leading a squadron of drones, guided his craft directly into an enemy carrier, detonating explosives that tore it apart from within. General Hayes, already wounded from earlier battles, climbed into a damaged jet and led one final charge. His voice carried over the radio. "They call us myths. Let's show them what a myth can do." He never returned, but his sacrifice inspired others. Every soldier, every pilot, every engineer fought with the memory of the fallen burning in their hearts. A desperate gambit. Despite Earth's fierce resistance, the Dominion's numbers seemed endless. For every ship destroyed, another replaced it. Humanity realized they needed something greater than defense. They needed to strike at the heart of the Alindra fleet. Elena, working with the command team, proposed a desperate plan. They had learned, from captured fragments, that the flagship Tevra controlled the coordination of the entire fleet. If it fell, the Dominion's forces would scatter. The plan was simple but nearly impossible. Infiltrate the flagship and destroy its core. volunteers, stepped forward immediately. Soldiers, scientists, and pilots, all willing to give their lives. A small strike team was chosen, their shuttle disguised as debris to slip past defenses. Elena herself, though urged to stay, insisted on joining. "This is not just strategy anymore," she said. "This is our future." Inside the flagship, the strike team's shuttle drifted silently through the chaos of battle. Explosions lit the skies as they passed burning wrecks, slipping between firestorms until they reached the Tevra. Landing inside a damaged hangar, they entered the heart of the enemy ship. Corridors of black alloy stretched before them, glowing faintly with alien light. Elindra soldiers confronted them, but the team fought with grit and determination, pushing deeper toward the core. Elena carried no weapon, but her mind was sharper than steel. She guided the team through systems, identifying weak points, disabling traps, and leading them closer to the heart of the ship. At last, they reached the core chamber. A massive sphere of energy pulsed within, the heartbeat of the flagship. The confrontation. Admiral Kaylor was waiting. Surrounded by guards, he stepped forward, his voice cold. "So the myths stand before me. You believe you can unmake the Dominion with fire and stubborn will? Foolish." Elena met his gaze without fear. "We are not myths. We are human, and we do not kneel." The battle erupted. Soldiers clashed in a storm of steel and fire. The strike team fought desperately, holding off the guards. Elena rushed toward the core, carrying a device built to overload its energy. Captain Soraya, standing at the edge of the chamber, hesitated as she watched. Her loyalty to the Dominion clashed with the truth burning before her eyes. Finally, she turned her weapon, not on the humans, but on Kaylor. "Admiral, the legends were not warnings. They were truths, and you would have us ignore them." Her blast struck Kaylor, staggering him. In that moment of distraction, Elena activated the device. The fall of the flagship. The core pulsed violently, energy surging beyond control. The strike team ran, dragging Elena with them as alarms blared. Kaylor's furious roar echoed through the chamber as the ship shook violently. From outside, the Elindra fleet watched in shock as the Tevra exploded in a blinding wave of light. The flagship, the heart of their fleet, was gone. Without its command, the Dominion ships faltered. Confusion spread. Some fled, others surrendered. The mighty fleet, once unstoppable, broke apart before the eyes of Earth. The aftermath. When the smoke cleared, Earth still stood. Ruins scarred the land, but the people raised their heads high. They had not only survived, they had won. In the following weeks, remnants of the Elindra fleet withdrew. Negotiations began, fragile but real. Many Elindra officers, disillusioned with their leaders, chose to seek peace rather than conquest. Even Captain Soraya, who had turned against Kaylor, became a voice for truce. For humanity, the war was costly, but it left a mark deeper than scars. The galaxy now knew the truth. The children of Earth were not forgotten. They were not fading legends. They were fire reborn. The legend lives in every city. People spoke of the battle. Songs were sung, stories told. Parents reminded their children that courage was not in strength alone, but in refusing to yield. Elena, standing before a gathering of survivors, spoke with quiet pride. They came to erase us from memory, but now they will remember us forever. We are not myths. We are humanity, and we are here to stay. The crowd erupted with cheers. The fire of Earth had been reignited, and it would burn through the stars for generations to come.